I didn't change anything that night. Same room, same routine, same thoughts, or at least, that's what I believed. But when I woke up the next morning, something about me felt unfamiliar. It wasn't dramatic. Nothing in my life had suddenly improved. My problems were still there, emails waiting, deadlines creeping closer, the same quiet tension I'd been carrying for months. But something subtle had shifted. The way I reacted, the way I thought, it felt like someone had quietly rewritten a part of me while I wasn't looking. And the strange part? I didn't know when it started. A few weeks earlier, my life had been painfully predictable. I'd wake up, grab my phone before even sitting up, scroll through notifications I didn't care about, and feel this low, steady pressure in my chest. Not anxiety exactly, more like a quiet heaviness. Like I was always a step behind my own life. Work was fine. Not terrible, not exciting. Just fine. I remember thinking, this is probably what most people feel like. You just get used to it. You lower your expectations a little each year and call it being realistic. I didn't question it. That was the part that bothered me later. I wasn't even aware I had stopped questioning things. There was this one evening I remember clearly. I was sitting in my car outside my apartment, engine off, just staring ahead. I wasn't tired. I wasn't sad. I just didn't feel like going inside. I remember thinking, why does everything feel the same lately? And then, almost immediately, another thought interrupted it. It's normal. Don't overthink it. That second thought came so fast, so automatic, it didn't feel like a choice. It felt like a response that had been trained into me. I went inside like nothing happened. But that moment stayed with me. A few days later, something small happened at work. A coworker made a casual comment about a project I'd been working on. It wasn't even criticism, just a suggestion, really. But I felt this immediate defensiveness rise up. They think I messed it up. That was my first thought. It came out of nowhere, sharp and certain. And what struck me wasn't the thought itself, it was how quickly I believed it. I didn't pause. I didn't question it. I just accepted it as truth. That night, I replayed the conversation in my head. Not the actual words, but my reaction. Why did I assume that? I remember asking myself. There was no clear answer. And that's when the discomfort started, not loud or overwhelming, but persistent. Like a quiet question that wouldn't go away. Over the next week, I started noticing more of these moments. Little automatic reactions. Assumptions that felt instant and unquestionable. Someone didn't reply to a message, I'd think, they're ignoring me. A minor mistake at work, I'd think, I'm not good enough for this. Plans changed, I'd think, figures. Nothing works out anyway. Each thought came fast. Too fast. And I realized something unsettling. I wasn't choosing these thoughts. They were choosing themselves. That's when the idea first crossed my mind. What if these aren't actually my thoughts? It sounded strange, almost uncomfortable to consider. But once it was there, I couldn't ignore it. If I wasn't actively choosing them, where were they coming from? One night, I decided to test something. Nothing complicated. No big plan. I just sat on my bed, turned off the lights, and let my mind wander the way it always did. Same patterns started showing up. You didn't do enough today. Tomorrow's going to be the same. You're falling behind. But instead of following those thoughts, I did something different. I paused. And for the first time, I asked, what if this isn't true? Not in a motivational way. Not trying to stay positive. Just questioning it. The thought didn't disappear. But it lost some of its weight. So I tried something else. I started repeating a different thought. Quietly. Not forcing it. Just introducing it. Maybe I'm doing better than I think. It felt unnatural. Almost fake. My mind resisted it immediately. No, you're not. But I didn't argue. I just let both thoughts exist. And then I went to sleep. Nothing special happened that night. No breakthrough. No sudden clarity. But the next morning, something was different. I woke up, reached for my phone like always, and then stopped. There was this small pause. A moment of awareness. You don't have to check it right now. It was a simple thought. But it felt intentional. I put the phone down. That had never happened before. Throughout the day, I noticed more of these pauses. At work, when I made a mistake, the usual thought started forming, "You're not good at this," but it didn't fully land. It felt weaker. Like it didn't have the same authority. Instead, another thought surfaced. Not loud. Just present. It's fixable. I remember sitting there, slightly confused. Where did that come from? It wasn't something I usually told myself. And that's when it clicked. The thoughts I had been repeating, even the ones that felt unnatural, had started to settle somewhere deeper. Not in my conscious mind, but somewhere underneath it. The part of me that reacts before I can think. The part that forms assumptions instantly. My subconscious. I hadn't changed my mindset in some dramatic way. I had just interrupted the pattern. And introduced a new one. Over the next few days, I kept experimenting. Nothing extreme. Just small shifts. When a negative thought showed up, I didn't fight it. I just added a second option. Maybe there's another way to see this. Sometimes I believed it. Sometimes I didn't. But that didn't seem to matter. Because slowly, something started to rewire. I became less reactive. Not emotionless, just less automatic. I noticed space between things. Between what happened, and what I believed about it. That space felt new. And in that space, I had a choice. That was the part no one really talks about. We think change comes from big decisions. Major life shifts. But most of our behavior isn't driven by decisions. It's driven by patterns we didn't consciously create. Reactions that have been repeating for years. Beliefs that feel like facts, only because they've been rehearsed so many times. I didn't reprogram my mind overnight. But I did start it overnight. And once it started, it kept going. Without effort. Without force. Just repetition. Weeks later, I found myself in a situation that would have triggered me before. A conversation where I felt misunderstood. The old reaction tried to show up. They don't respect you. But it didn't stick. Instead, I noticed something else. Maybe they're just seeing it differently. I didn't feel defensive. I felt curious. That was new. And in that moment, I realized something that changed the way I see everything. The subconscious mind doesn't argue. It doesn't analyze. It just accepts what it's given, over and over again. For years, I had been feeding it doubt, assumptions, quiet negativity, without realizing it. Not intentionally. Just automatically. And it had been giving me back exactly what I trained it to. Reactions. Beliefs. Perceptions. Not truth. Just repetition. The hidden power wasn't in controlling every thought. It was in noticing which ones I was repeating. And gently choosing which ones to keep. I still have the same life. Same job. Same routines. But it doesn't feel the same anymore. Because the way I experience it has changed. And that change didn't come from outside. It came from something I didn't even realize I had been shaping all along. Sometimes I think about that version of me sitting in the car, feeling stuck but not questioning it. And I wonder how many of us are living like that. Not because life is wrong, but because the lens we're using was built unconsciously. And never updated. The strange thing is, most people are waiting for something external to change before they feel different. A better situation. A better opportunity. But what if the real shift starts earlier than that? What if it starts in the quiet, unnoticed thoughts, the ones we repeat without thinking? Because once those change, everything else starts to feel different too. Not instantly. Not dramatically. But undeniably. And maybe the real question isn't whether your mind can change overnight. Maybe it's this. What are you quietly teaching it, right now?